Hi everyone, Alisha Merlo here. Welcome to another episode of Countdown to GVAS Fall Summit 2020. And right now I have a special guest with me. Her name is Erin Whitehead, and she may be new to many of you in the aesthetic space, but she is a very talented woman who has advanced degrees and takes all her knowledge and her passion for pouring into professional and personal development as an executive coach and owns her own company called Kick the Ceiling. So welcome, Erin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be part of GVAS. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. So before we jump into what you're going to be sharing at GVAS, we always like to get to know our faculty a little bit better. So maybe you can share with us your background, what you actually do, and why you're so passionate about what you do, and why it's important to our aesthetic place.
Sure. So my passion is helping people. And all of that kind of came full circle about 5 years ago, almost to the day, where my boss walked into my office and said, "This isn't working out anymore." And everything that was going on in my personal life that was so tumultuous was one big train wreck, and it was just smearing into my professional life where I just didn't know what to do anymore. That was on a Monday. So throughout the week, took a little reflection, decided to quit everything that I knew for the last 20 years and do a cannonball off the high dive, which is what I like to say. So that Friday, I drove home jobless with no plan. I took the next 6 or 7 months to do that famous inward journey that you hear so many people talk about. And it was really dark, and I cried a lot, and then it got darker, and then I cried even more. And at the end of it, I didn't emerge with an epiphany. Like, oh my gosh, there's something new that I figured out that I didn't before. Rather, I figured out that for 20 years, I had been rejecting myself in a way that I wasn't fulfilling my own dreams. And all of that meant I wasn't facing my biggest fear in life, which is embarrassment. I so much had dreams and aspirations of owning my own company, owning my own business, working with dream clients, doing everything that I loved, working on my own timetable, etc. And I wasn't. I was trading my dreams for a 9 to 5. And I said, I've got to face this fear head on. And I discovered executive coaching. I found a master certified coach who helped me reframe my inner critic and basically live with this fear every single day. And in doing so, I'm able to put myself out into the world as an entrepreneur, the CEO of my own company, and help people. And I fell in love with executive coaching and then went through the proper channels in order to get certified myself. And it is just this passion that has, it's just all sort of come together in this beautiful array. And everything that I had learned over 20 years in the healthcare business piece of everything, working with others, conflict, work office politics, everything like that. I wanted to educate myself just a little bit further. So I did that. And I decided that I was going to call my company Kick the Ceiling, which basically means kick that ceiling, face your fears head on, play bigger in arenas that you want to, and do what you have to pull yourself through the journey that you so much deserve. So that's what I do. I'm an executive coach, and I work with surgeons and help them take their desire for either wanting to play bigger or avoid physician burnout or do something that they want to do so terribly, but they just don't know how, et cetera, and actually show them how to implement action steps in order to move forward or to recharge during their day or to find joy in their work or to implement transformation. And it's just absolutely amazing. And in aesthetics, it really speaks, and it speaks to this webinar that I'm giving, which comes across as comparisons. And in aesthetics, there's all kinds of comparisons. So, patients walk in and they show the doctor's Instagram photos, like, make me look like this, or how can I look like this? Or, I feel 26, but I'm 52 years old. How can we match my age, my real age, with how I feel? And so there's a lot of comparisons happening. And so that's why I decided to bring this webinar that we'll get to in a minute to the aesthetic world and introduce you all just a little bit more to executive coaching and neuroscience.
I can really appreciate what you shared, that the journey that you went through was part of how you evolved to become who you've always wanted to be. So
Sure.
I appreciate you sharing that background. I'm going to
Pleasure.
poke you a little bit more because, executive coach, what does it take to be executive coach? What do I need? Do I just put a sign up and says, I'm a coach? What
You
type
can.
of training? Well, exactly. But what type of training did
Yes.
you invest in to make sure that you were knowledgeable to be able to deliver this kind of help and be a resource to these surgeons who have sometimes 2 decades worth of training under their belt before they even open their own doors and start practicing? So maybe we can talk a little bit about what you have done to make sure that you are educated and continue to stay educated on the leading edge. And I want you to toot your horn because I know some of these things that you've accomplished, so please share that with us.
So I love this question because as an executive coach, it's not a licensed field as medical, as legal, as real estate, as finance. So literally anybody could put up a website and call themselves an executive coach. I took the proper journey and the proper channels in order to be certified correctly, if you will, through the International Coach Federation, which is the gold standard for coaching, whether you are a health coach, life coach, executive coach, etc. Went through those steps. There's actually board certification that you can go through and achieve. For me, it's going to take probably another 1.5 to 2 years to finish everything. It's very grueling. You have to learn psychology theories. You have to study intensely for this. That's the path that I choose. I also choose to educate myself further through continuing education credits. I am a fellow with the Institute of Coaching at McLean Hospital with Harvard Medical. And in doing so, we ensure that the proper information goes out about executive coaching and that it's evidence-based. And right, so if you're looking for an executive coach, you need to look for these specific things. Also, one of the biggest myths is that you have to be a plastic surgeon in order to executive coach for plastic surgeons, which could not be more false. One of the misconceptions that people have about executive coaching is that your coach gives advice, and that's not accurate. It's not the same as, say, a tennis coach, where your tennis coach teaches you a topspin on a serve or how to hit your backhand, constantly consulting with you. An executive coach, rather, during a session, asks you high impact, powerful questions that moves from the conscious to the subconscious and pulls you through, pulls the information back up to the top, getting you to have aha moments and realizing that you had the answers within you already. The only time an executive coach would ever give advice is if we ask permission from the client, or if we feel like you're in the 2x2 quadrant of the unknown unknown, where you just don't know what you just don't know. And then there's something that we could potentially offer for you. Another question that I get is hysterical to me, because when I tell people I'm a certified executive coach, they say, oh, so you're a life coach. And I say, no, I'm an executive coach. And they go like, what is that? So executive coaching and life coaching do have parallels. Life coaching is more about personal realms, personal mission, where are you going in life. Executive coaching has more to do with the business side and the leadership side and what you're doing when you show up professionally. Although when you do make positive changes in that side of your life, it bleeds into your professional life. So one of the number one comments that I get from my surgeon clients is, my wife tells me I'm less stressed, or I was able to go on a date night with my husband. My kids tell me that I'm happy. I was cycling over the weekend because I feel like I've carved more time for this work-life balance that I so much needed. So executive coaching really brings a powerful impact to someone's life. It can be life transforming, and I take it very seriously. This is not a side hustle of mine. This is full-time. I am constantly educating myself. I can assure you that I go on Amazon and I get some book drop shipped to me once a day. My stack of books, because I am a bibliophile, which is just a lover of books, is so high. I don't even think I have the capacity to keep up with the books that I've ordered, but I do. I study self-determination theory. I study all the psychological theories that you're tested on, and then some. and I dive deeper. I'm on think tanks 3 times a week with my fellow Harvard Medical Institute of Coaching fellows, constantly improving, constantly absorbing, constantly moving forward.
I can really appreciate the depth of your knowledge and your pursuit of knowledge, Erin. I think it's really important, and can thank you for differentiating kind of executive coach, life coach, and also really calling out that it's important to know that person who's going to be helping guide you through this transformation is qualified, and you don't have to be
Right.
qualified, which is so interesting to know. So I think it's going to be very helpful for those watching this video and preparing to be able to sit in your session to know that they are learning from somebody who is very knowledgeable, has a heart and a pursuit for knowledge, and will always be there to take it to the next level so that you can help your clients achieve their next level. So that's great.
Absolutely.
So let's dive into what you're going to be sharing at GVAS. So I've got the name of your session, and it's called Hardwired for Connection. So what we'd love to know, without giving away everything, because we want obviously people to be able to sit in the session and really dive deep with you there, but what is that about? Why is it important? And how are they going to walk away with something actionable from spending time with you at GVAS?
So the number one concept that I coach surgeons on, or C-suite healthcare executives, is permission. The second is physician burnout, but the first is permission, meaning I feel like I need to look for and seek permission in order to move forward somewhere in life. And in the aesthetic industry, the number one thing that I could think is that aesthetics is the face of beauty. And when you dive just a little bit deeper, you realize that there's insecurities that are hidden. Some people are better at hiding them than others, but a lot of people have insecurities that they don't talk about around the dinner table. And I thought, what better way to shed light on this topic is to come up with this webinar. It's called Hardwired for Connection, the drivers behind the comparison trap and why we care so much about what other people think. So for somebody who has studied neuroscience, which is basically how the brain interprets emotions that we feel, and therefore how do we act after, or even before we know and realize how those emotions are being delineated in our brain and how they're being interpreted. Sometimes we have gut reactions and we do knee-jerk reactions. I wanted to bring this and talk about the reasons why we get pulled into the comparison trap. So it's very, very common to compare yourself to others. We're going to talk about the 3 top reasons why we get pulled into the comparison trap. We're going to touch a little bit about envy. We can't have a webinar about comparison trap without talking about social media a little bit, but it's not what you think. I'm actually going to talk about my own personal social media accounts in which posts get a lot of action as opposed to which posts don't. So I'm going to show you that. We're going to talk about certainty and what that has to do with comparison. So when you look at your neighbor and they have a bigger house, a better car, kids that listen at the dinner table, they have more money in the bank, and they're 10 years younger than you.
That person.
Yeah. So you feel certain, right? You feel certain that you're doing something wrong, and it can't help but pull you into this comparison trap. But I'm going to teach you why certainty is an emotion. A lot of people think that it's a cognitive process and that our brain goes through all of these thoughts and we go like, oh yes, that's why I feel certain. But actually certainty is an emotion, just like joy or sadness or glee. It doesn't come at the end of the cognitive process. It's what we feel, and our brain backfills the information with the thoughts as to why we feel certain. So we're going to talk about that. And my favorite piece of this webinar is the pain of isolation and feeling ostracized versus physical pain. Is there a difference between the two? When we study the brain and when we look at MRIs, what does it tell us? And as a neurologist, if you were to hold your hand under scalding hot water, or if you were to experience a breakup, could the neurologist tell a difference? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then at the end, we're going to talk about ways that you can move forward. So if you feel like you are pulled into the comparison trap, this is something that you worry about a lot, you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you feel beaten down in some area of your life in this way, how can you move forward on your terms?
That is a lot of good stuff in one session. And I loved what you said earlier about how everything that you work with and touch is evidence-based. And this audience
Yes.
is going to be driven by that evidence base. So that's a running theme through, it sounds like, everything that you have shared. So don't miss Erin's session at GVAS. That's going to be fantastic. Will you be hanging around in the networking lounge and be able to chat at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I wish I could be with all of you in person.
Right? Don't we
Yeah.
all wish everything would be with everybody in person? And I had the pleasure of meeting Erin earlier this year through a mutual friend and professional colleague of mine too. And I can speak from some personal experience knowing that Erin really is the real deal. And if you're really ready to take on these things that may be holding you back from what you desire, listen to her session and learn some of the ways that you can identify and overcome and move forward. So thank you for that, Erin. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Within executive coaching, because that is a newer realm for these talks. I've been attending for 20 years these aesthetic conferences, in person and now virtual, and it's really something very fresh. So we don't know a lot about the development and the evolution of it. But if you were to look in a crystal ball, like, is there anything new down the line that you see that executive coaching, maybe it's going to be more mainstream for healthcare and more industries? Maybe it's going to be something that people put into their plans for wellness. Like, what's the future look like for your field?
The future is executive coaching. The number one reason why doctors reach out to me instead of a psychotherapist or a psychologist is because there's a couple reasons, and they're all tied for first, to be honest with you, is that they're afraid their colleagues are going to find out that they need help. They're afraid their patients are going to find out. And they are afraid that there's going to be a medical entry into their record that's going to follow them. And as executive coaches, unless otherwise licensed, we do not go into case history or ask for any medical background. So executive coaching is forward-looking. The doctors that I work with love the executive coaching because there's a positive spin to that. So when you go see a psychotherapist, there is a mindset with that, and you delve a lot into the past. And like I say on my webinar, drama with your mama in the 4th grade, and, you know, lay back on the couch and the classic sort of scene in your mind. Executive coaching is all about the future and all about moving ahead. And in healthcare specifically, for the physician burnout pandemic that we experience in all specialties across healthcare universally, executive coaching is making a beautiful positive dent. Beautiful positive dent.
And with
so look for it. Executive coaches are coming to you.
It's going to be like, it used to be, who does your Botox? Who does your fillers, right? Now it's me, who's your executive coach?
That's right.
I love that the future is what you do, because I truly feel that if we all were able to capitalize on what it's going to take to move us forward into those things, the world's going to be a better place. And you talked about just the impact it has on our business and our professional life, but also on how we are as people. So if people that are attending GVAS or people want to get in touch with you prior to the summit, how can they find you?
The number one way to find me is through LinkedIn. First name, last name, Erin Whitehead. It's the number one place that you can do the most research on me, the articles that I've published, my background, everything that I have been certified in, all of the degrees that I have. I hate to toot my own horn. All of my education, the associations that I am affiliated with. And if you prefer a website, you can do that too, erinmwhitehead.com.
Fantastic. And I will say, if you follow her on LinkedIn, she has the best content on LinkedIn. You don't just get, here's my kind of brochure. You get Erin, and you get Erin authentic, and she posts videos, and she's provocative in the best kind of way. So I would encourage you to make sure you follow her on LinkedIn. And we look forward to seeing you at GVAS. For those of you who have not grabbed your spot yet, please make sure that you do, because you're going to get, along with Erin, so many amazing professionals and faculty on the clinical side, on the personal development side, and on the business side. So thank you, Erin, for being with us. I'll look forward to seeing
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.